Let's get started. Today we have three presentations for you. We will start with Bevel Puffer, who will offer her experience and expertise in congregational care and older adult ministry. Bevel is a wife, a mom, a grandma, and a caregiver, and a beloved child of God. Since the early 1990s, she has been passionate about older adult ministry, serving as coordinator of senior adult ministries at Methodist Church in Houston, where she recognized the deep needs for connection among among members of the community. She moved to Chattanooga in 2004, where she is an active volunteer at Hickson United Methodist Church, helping create programs for congregational care in the local church. In 2021, she retired from a full-time position as communication director for the Governor's Office of Faith and Community Initiatives to be a caregiver for her husband. Last year, she accepted a part-time position at Hickson United Methodist Church as the adult ministry assistant, where she is helping develop a systematic approach to offer help, hope, and healing to older adults in our community. Welcome, Bevel.
Thank you, Christy. It is a delight to be here with you today, and I just really appreciate. I've listened to the other engaging community events and just think you all are doing such a great job, and really appreciate all that you're doing. And so I'm excited to be able to share with this group today some of the things that we're working on at Hickson United Methodist, and some of the things I've been involved in other churches in Texas also. Okay, so for our church, congregational care is all about compassion, action, relationship, and engagement. Well, I didn't mean to do that. But now I'm like, help.
You
Okay.
can hit either your arrow keys
There
or
we
the
go.
enter usually. Yeah.
Okay. So we all know that loneliness is an epidemic, and it has just gotten worse and worse as we've come out of COVID. One survey says that an increased odds of dying early. If you live with air pollution, it's 5%. If you live with obesity, it's 20%. Excessive drinking is 30%, but living with loneliness is 45%. Why has this happened? And it really is about loss of connection. And that's why I really appreciate this whole emphasis on connection. Particularly, this is true with older adults. They become disconnected from other people, especially as they age and become have physical and other issues. They disconnect from meaningful work when they retire. They disconnect from meaningful values. Often they're disconnected from the natural world because they can't get around outside very well. Many of them are struggling with disconnection because of traumatic childhood. They're disconnected from status and respect, and they're disconnected from a hopeful or secure future, which of course makes me think of the verse where God says he has plans for us to have hope and a future with him. God knew from the beginning that we needed to be in relationship with other people. In Genesis, it says, the Lord God said, it is not good for man to be alone. So I will make a helper suitable for him. We need to be connected in relationships with others. At Hickson United Methodist Church in Chattanooga, our mission statement is to partner with God to help transform the world by offering help, hope, and healing through Jesus Christ. And we consider how we can spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up and meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another. And that's from Hebrews 10. Congregational care involves coming together in relationships and fellowship with one another, both in support groups and one-on-one through visitation support and encouragement. And in that way, we spur one another on towards love and good deeds. Our church started this adult ministry, or we kind of restarted after COVID with a survey. What we found was that we had kind of lost some of our people too, and having a hard time getting people back in the walls. So we started with a survey and assessing what we're doing well and what we're not doing very well. So where we were focused on connecting within the church, it was with worship. With Sunday school, we have a very active Sunday school with 17 adult classes, and we keep adding classes. We have Bible studies and prayer groups, small groups, and the choir and music ministry that offer a chance for spiritual formation. We offer some physical events. We have a Zumba class weekly, a Tai Chi class weekly, and we have done a Couch to 5K, which got people up and moving again who had been, hanging out in front of the TV too long. We have an active social life in our church. We plan 4 trips a year. We do shared meals. We have quarterly retired fellowship luncheons. This is a community-wide event. We usually get 60 to 90 people. Sometimes we have a program and sometimes we don't. They just enjoy coming and sharing the meal together. And we do have different, we have some of our local celebrities might come and speak. We do Wednesday night dinners just in 6-week increments, maybe once or twice a year, in connection with other classes and learning events. And there are special events. At my church in Houston, we did a fashion show with the youth and the older adults. The older adults pulled out some old wedding dresses, army uniforms, party clothes. It was great fun. The youth were the only ones little enough to fit into those clothes, so they modeled them for us, and we shared a meal. That was a great event in Houston. I'm hoping we can replicate that here. At our church, we offer support groups. We have grief support that's offered once or twice a year. We have a caregiver dementia support group that meets monthly, and we offer recovery programs within our church. We also have educational programs and speakers just from time to time. We've had people from the VA or local assisted living facilities come and talk to our group, things like that. Sometimes people will say, how in the world do you all have so many things going on? And one of the decisions that we made early on as a church is that oftentimes as a church, you'll say, let's just, we need to do this and we need to do that. The staff decides. And we've started taking the approach that we call bubbling up. So when somebody says, I think we should be offering, for example, an exercise group or a grief support group, we say, would you be interested in leading that? And that's how our exercise programs got started. They're trained and they said, yeah, I'll do that once a week. And it's a free class. For our grief support, one of our ladies lost her husband, and she came to us and said, I don't think you all are doing a good job with grief support. Well, she was also a Sunday school teacher, and we felt like she kind of had some skills for that. So we said, could we help get you some training, and would you be interested in leading it? And she did. So that has been great. And then sometimes our dementia and caregiver support group we feel like there's some special skills required for that. So Jim Lewis, who's our Christian formation leader, said, how can I help facilitate? He has a lot of mental health background and coaching and trauma experience. So he helps facilitate that group. So sometimes we're involved in them, and sometimes it's a completely congregational-led, volunteer-led experience. But our connections outside the walls of the church that's kind of where my heart is. I deal a lot with the homebound and shut-ins. And what happened after COVID was a lot of people had a long break from going to church, and it was hard to get them, to make that commitment again, to get up on Sunday mornings and get dressed and come. A lot of them experienced, major health issues during that time, and they had become disconnected and very lonely. So one of the first things we did was make a really concerted effort to find those people. And what we ended up doing was just creating a Google Doc with a sheet of our people who are shut in at home, and then we have another listing of local senior adult living facilities. And so we've got them listed separately by those two areas. And right now we have almost 40 people on that list, which we've never seen a list quite that large before. And we're realizing that we really need to be caring better for that group. So we're looking at what our homebound members are really longing for. And from talking to them, conversation, I know my own husband who's here by himself. And for example, I was gone for 3 days this past weekend, and I get home and he is ready to talk when I come in the door. And so he's just longing to have another person to talk to. They're asking us to pray with them. We read scripture, and one of my most intimate experiences was in a dementia care facility, and we read, one of the ladies I was with started reading the 23rd Psalm, and our patient could recite that along with her. That's just a really meaningful thing to bring to mind, that scripture that's in our heads. Touch is so important. I visited a lady who had just come out of the hospital last week, and she's in a assisted living now, and they were doing some wound care for her. When I went in, I asked if she wanted me to leave, and she said, "Oh no, please stay." And so she was obviously in some pain, and I said, "Can I hold your hand?" And she said, "Oh yes, please do." So there's just a longing for that physical touch, a hug, holding hands, whatever it takes. So prior to COVID, we had this hometown communion. We had a great lady who was leading this for us. And so we were visiting homes and facilities to offer Holy Communion quarterly to people. And one of the great things about this, it's a great way to introduce people to a ministry of visitation, because we say, if you'll just deliver communion with us, and you can make a one-time commitment, you can go twice a year, whatever, sort of a low commitment beginning, but it's a great way to open a path for deeper connection. One man who was sort of not too excited to go with us, once we got in conversation with the gentleman we were taking communion to, they both realized they had worked at TVA, they had some connections. And when we left, he said, "Hey, I'd like to be the person responsible for visiting this homebound member." Well, okay, yeah, we'll let you do that. That'd be great. So that was a great way for deeper connection. And we also invite families to participate so that children and youth get the opportunity to visit with the older adults and kind of see what that is like for them as well. We have care teams, visitation teams, and for example, one way that this allows us to even expand the ministry, at one point, our church had about 7 or 8 people at Morning Point close to our church. And so they had a lot of visitors coming and going. And the director of the facility said, "You all have so many people here. Could you all start offering a worship service?" And so on every Thursday night since about 2017, a group of volunteers from our church go over there. They have a pianist that goes with them. They play the piano, they sing hymns, and our volunteers don't like to say they're preachers, so they say, "And we tell a story." So they tell a short story, 10 minutes, and have a prayer. And it's just, they start with the piano going, and they said it's just like the doors just start opening and people start coming in because they want to come sing and enjoy that time of Christian fellowship together. So our homebound visitations also allow us to see the caregiver in their environment and see what needs they might have that we could help them with. So that's really a critical part of the whole ministry too. And we try to have somebody who stays in touch with a member of the family, so that if there are any needs that we can help them with, we can do that too. And our children and youth will go and visit they always ask us who would most welcome us there. And sometimes it's to go to a facility, and sometimes it's to go to individual homes. We had One of our women who worked with children and youth a lot recently passed away, and they visited her husband. And I mean, this was about 2 weeks after her death, and he was so delighted to see them. So it just was it's a great ministry for everybody. We also send birthday cards. Our pastors are pretty committed to this ministry too. They call every person on their birthday, if they have their birthday and know. And they do individual notes on Christmas and Easter cards for each homebound member. And we ask our Sunday schools and small groups if they would take on a mission project to send out cards occasionally to the homebound members. So that's a great support too. One of the best things that happens with our groups, especially, and I'm going to talk about the caregiver support group, we really provide a lot of support and advocacy through that group and walk with them through their struggles and encourage them and connect them with outside agencies as they're going through decisions about, should we move to a full dementia care? I want to keep him at home, but it's become so hard. Things like one of our ladies' husbands was a veteran, and she really struggled, but finally got all his benefits. And just a few weeks later, another lady who was new to the group came in and said, I really am trying to get VA support, but I'm having problems with it. Well, they got together, they set up a meeting, and they walked together through that difficult thing and got the VA support for the other woman. So just awesome encouragement through things like that. Special services, we have done an Easter service here, and I did several Christmas worship services at my church in Houston. This to me is just one of the best things that you can do. And in Houston, we brought all our homebound people in, and we had one lady who had severe dementia, and she had been nonverbal for really over a year. They come in, they see the church all decorated up for the holiday, and she came in with her husband, and we started singing Christmas carols, and that lady started singing Christmas carols with us. It was just so moving and so remarkable. And her husband was so grateful to hear her voice again. Things like that, experiences that you just can't replicate. They're awesome. So here's how we do our connections. It's first about what we do for others. So we at Hitson, we connect with hospitality. We welcome people in. We accept them where they are. We try to give them dignity and value. We connect through neighboring, visiting, sharing time and space so that we're all together and get that special relationship. We share our journeys side by side with connecting. And I think of the ladies with the VA and the dementia care, that was really special. We connect with listening. Sometimes that's all they want, is just for you to listen and to pay attention, to look at them. And then connect with accompaniment. We share partnerships and a circle of care. I think people in our congregation feel that they can ask for help whenever they need it. And within our community, we offer opportunity. We create opportunities for community learning. We've done health fairs. We invite people to those luncheons and special events. We connect with commitment. We do. Jim Lewis is a trained facilitator and life coach, and so he does peer group training and peer ministry training, and just is terrific at getting people committed to caring and loving the people around them. And we connect with inclusion, encouraging organizations to partner and integrate. We've got a local church who has a dementia care service 3 times a week. So we've gotten our group connected with them, both to volunteer and to provide care for their loved one. And then we have a space where people can ask for and receive help. And we connect with advocacy. So we do try to speak up and share our voice as advocates for older adults in the community. So that's what we're doing at Hickson United Methodist, to partner with God to transform the world by offering help, hope, and healing through Jesus Christ. And I'm excited to hopefully hear what you guys are doing in the same way and answer any questions that you might have now or later.
Thanks so much, Pavel.
Sure.
If you have any burning questions for Pavel, you can go ahead and put those in the chat, and then we'll have some discussion time at the end where we'll be able to talk a little bit more and expand on questions and discussion as well. Next up, we have Tiffany Mann, who is from Agewell, Middle Tennessee. And part of Pavel's presentation, she talked about that connection to community and utilizing resources in the community to help support older adults and caregivers. And so we wanted to bring Tiffany alongside of us so that she can give you some comments and information about ways that congregations can connect with organizations like Agewell, either with Agewell themselves or similar organizations in your community. So Tiffany has over 15 years of experience working in the human services field. She spent 12 years of her time working specifically with caregivers and those journeying through Alzheimer's and dementia. Tiffany is a certified manager of care and has her master's in mental health counseling. Tiffany enjoys assisting others to have the tools to have the best quality of life possible. Thanks for being here, Tiffany.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to share. All right. Well, thank you all for having me today. I'm excited to be with you. And my name is Tiffany Mann. I'm the Elder Care Coach and Community Partnerships Manager with Agewell. I'm going to share with you a lot more about Agewell and maybe give you some ideas to think about, maybe resources in your own community. I'm going to share with you today about a new initiative we have called Elder Care Coach. And if you can see on your screen, the mission for Agewell is to champion informed and positive aging and serve as the area's catalyst for collaborative solutions. So we get to do a lot of fun things. Just to tell you a little bit about Agewell, our former name was the Council on Aging of Greater Nashville. We changed our name several years ago to Agewell, Middle Tennessee, and we have 3 key roles. We've been around since 1985. We actually came out of an identified need out of the mayor's office, and so that's when Agewell got started. And 3 of our key roles are first to be a community resource. So if you can see, I don't know if you can see my arrow, but that first little infographic that I'll share more about, I'll go ahead and share that, is our directory of services. This is a guidebook, a resource guidebook that is a trusted resource in the community. It's also an impartial resource. We don't promote or endorse any specific resource. And in the directory contains about 16 categories of various resources that an older adult or a family caregiver might need along their journey. I'm not sure if I already mentioned this or not, but Agewell traditionally or historically has served 13 counties in the Middle Tennessee area. But many of the resources I tell you about today are also available on our website, and I'll share more about that here in just a second. We're also a catalyst for solutions to unmet needs. So I said, part of our mission is to promote informed and positive aging for older adults and family caregivers. And so we get to hear about unmet needs and bring collaborators to the table to come up with solutions, which is really exciting to get to be able to do. We are also a champion and advocate in our local community, just like Bevel said about her church. And so our executive director, Grace Smith, is co-chairs what's called the Tennessee Coalition for Better Aging. And we get to work on things like affordable housing, financial empowerment for older adults. And recently, if you heard about the Tennessee Commission on Aging becoming a cabinet level group under a new department, the Department of Disability and Aging. So we get to work on really neat things like that. And it's an honor to do that. Some of the resources I want you to know about at Agewell, and I'm going to point out kind of what's available here locally in Middle Tennessee in those 13 counties, but also what you can find on our website for anybody to use. So our directory of services, which I mentioned, is available in book form. It is at every public library in the 13 counties we serve, but it's also available online. And online, it's at our website, agewelltn.org. And on on the online directory, it's actually by county. What I want to mention is, I know some of you may be in outlying kind of Middle Tennessee counties. Many of the resources typically serve more than just the county they're listed in. They may serve counties in your area. So I'd encourage you to go to our website and check out the resources that you might be in need of, because they may still actually serve the county that you're in. We've also produced 3 guidebooks, which I'll talk about on the next slide. We produce a scam prevention email of the month. That's also available on our website. So each month we do mail out that email. You can join our email list, but you can also go to our website and look at previous scams of the month, which are for older adults and family caregivers. One of the tools I'm going to talk about here in a few minutes is Rubric, which is an online navigation tool, care navigation tool. And then I'll talk more about our program, Elder Care Coach. Our 3 guidebooks that we've had the honor of creating, along with subject matter experts and local caregivers, we have 3. They are available in PDF form on our website, or you can come by our local office and pick one up. We have the Aging and Caring Guidebook for families and caregivers. We have Empowering Grandparents, a guide for grandparents raising grandchildren that came out of an unmet need, and then Preparing and Planning for End of Life. AgeWell is really focused right now on also the family caregiver support of what we do. I don't know if you all are familiar with AARP's scorecard each year, but they put out this scorecard to rank long-term services and supports in each of the states. And last year in 2023, Tennessee ranked 47th among the states. And in the subcategory for family caregiver support, we ranked 51st. So we have a lot of work to do. And we want to partner with groups like yours, with churches, with businesses, to help family caregivers feel more supported. The tool I mentioned called Rubric, this is available on our website, agewelltn.org, but also on our kind of sister website, eldercarecoach.org. You can get to it from either of those websites. But Rubric is a company that we partner with out of North Carolina, and Rubric is a decision support tool to help a caregiver or a family member understand their loved one's needs and best fit options. And so we saw that a lot of caregivers, and you may find this in what you do, would call and be looking for a resource. Maybe they needed help navigating the directory, but they also, a lot of times those conversations turned into maybe a 20 or 30-minute phone call where they really were needing someone to help them get an action plan together, kind of know where to start. And so Rubric takes about 5 minutes. You can see on your screen the module's titled, "Is It Time to Get Help?" And so you can take that 5-minute or so assessment, and Rubric will then populate what's called a care fit report. And it's based on your responses, and it's really assessing safety and quality of life. So it's a great way to kind of, if you're a caregiver, to feel like, if you're feeling like, I'm not sure where to start, I need a plan, it's a great tool, a quick and easy tool to do that. We're also getting ready, you can pay attention to our website, we're getting ready to add another module called Is It Dementia? So it doesn't take the place of visiting a doctor, but it's a great way to kind of screen for maybe someone you're concerned about. So before I get into kind of talking about congregational care and how we've helped with that locally and how we're happy to partner with others, I wanted to just talk about, what do we mean by caregiving? Because I think one way that you as lay church members or staff in churches is to help people identify and honor the fact that they may be caregivers. So a caregiver, a general definition, is a family member, friend, or paid helper who regularly looks after a child or a sick, elderly, or disabled person. And so a lot of times we may not think we are caregivers if we don't live with our loved ones. So I like to say that there are primary and secondary caregivers. A primary caregiver might be someone that does live with their loved one, that's providing care day in and day out, or maybe they live close enough to their loved one that they're having that regular daily interaction with them. A secondary caregiver might be someone who doesn't live with their loved one, but maybe they still take them to doctor's appointments, or they are worried about their loved one. They're helping provide emotional support, or maybe they're preparing some meals for them. And we also want to consider that long distance caregivers are still caregivers. We see that long distance caregivers might be in charge of paying bills for their loved one, or scheduling doctor's appointments, and also just worrying about their loved one. So we say anytime you are giving of yourself physically, emotionally, time, financially, that you are a caregiver. So taking a loved one to a doctor's appointment, running errands, preparing meals, managing finances, providing emotional support, all of those things make you a caregiver. And you can help us by helping other people identify if they're actually caregivers, so that they honor that and they get the support that they need. Just to give you kind of some ideas to think about as you support caregivers in your congregations. You know, caregivers are really juggling a lot. They're juggling all of that picture I thought was pretty good. They're juggling all the things listed on the screen. And we can probably all relate to this, to these things. These are things that sometimes we have to do. Some of us have to work. Some of the things might be things we just want to do or that keep us healthy, like social health, but they're all things that are important to us that we're trying to juggle. And I have a good little scenario I just want to read to you real quick. This is from the Family Caregiver Alliance. Their website's caregiver.org. And this was a contribution article to the website. But just kind of the scenario goes, last week, Arlene missed 2 days of work when she felt uncomfortable leaving her elderly mother home alone. Recently diagnosed with dementia, her condition makes Arlene fear that she will wander off or accidentally hurt herself or damage her home while trying to complete a task as seemingly simple as making lunch. This week, Arlene's desk is overflowing with paperwork and deadlines. Her mother has a midweek appointment with her doctor, and Arlene's children are expecting her on the sidelines at 2 soccer games. The tasks related to work, family, and caregiving are piling up. Arlene is beginning to feel like she has one too many balls in the air. And I thought that was a really good little vignette of what it's like for caregivers to juggle all of these things. Stephanie, I'm going to keep track of time, but definitely pop in if you need me to wrap it up. Some identifying ways that we look at for caregiver stress. We know that caregiving causes all of these things. Sometimes we're still able to manage, and sometimes these things get so severe, these symptoms of caregiver stress, that we really need to ask for help. We need to maybe talk to a counselor or identify resources in the community. And I'll just touch on these very quickly. Denial can look like, I don't want to believe what's happening to my loved one. Feeling anxious might be thinking about those what ifs. What if this happens? What if that happens? Making up those stories that really cause us a lot of anxiety. Social withdrawal, not enjoying time with friends. Anger towards the person or the situation, and these are all very normal. Depression, this is more than just a blue day. We're feeling that level of sadness regularly. It's affecting our quality of life. Fatigue, not getting good sleep. So that's really more than just not getting sleep. It's kind of just feeling overwhelmed by the situation. Irritability, more sensitive to stress, lack of concentration. You can't focus on tasks. More health issues, being sick more, and sleeplessness, not getting good sleep, not getting the sleep needed, sleeping well, that sort of thing. What do caregivers need? This is what you can think about in your own congregation, and thinking about how can you support caregivers that attend your communities, whether it's through a volunteer or through programs that staff provide. But caregivers really need, and in the highlighted parts, they have to be prepared for going forward. They have to understand what's going on. So they need that education. Knowledge is power. We don't know what we don't know. So education around caregiving and what their loved one's dealing with, so that they can really understand the progression of what their loved one's dealing with and what symptoms are to come. We know that caregivers, if they know what their loved one's dealing with, they understand it, they know what symptoms are going to come, they can feel more prepared for the future and for going forward. They need emotional support. Like Bevel mentioned, a support group is a great way for caregivers to not only get support, but also give support, and just know that they're not alone and they don't feel as isolated. I mentioned understanding the progression of the disease, and then accessing a care team early at the bottom of that slide is really important. Just really seek seeking out the resources that might be needed along that caregiver's journey. Okay, just a couple keys to positive caregiving. I really want to just point out too this quote over on the right side of your screen, which we love this quote by former First Lady Rosalind Carter. She says and I think if you can think about this, we can all probably relate to one or more of these roles. She says there are only 4 kinds of people in this world: those who have been caregivers, those who are currently caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need a caregiver. All of us can probably assume we are going to be touched in some way, like her quote says. I didn't tell you a ton about me. I know Christy read my bio. So I've been in the senior industry supporting caregivers since probably 2010, and both at the Alzheimer's Association and then as a certified geriatric care manager. And so I really got to walk very closely alongside caregivers and think about the resources, support, and education that they need. And I'm not going to get into the weeds with these 4 things, but just these are things that really have stood out when caregivers and so we know the caregiving journey can be long, it can be tough, but I think it's also important to say that there can also be quality of life for everyone involved. There can also be hope. And a lot of it just depends on how we prepare and how we seek out help during that journey. So communicating with your family, friends, your care team, but also giving the person that's dealing with whatever disease it is the opportunity to communicate to you their needs and wants and feelings. Organizing and planning ahead. So learning what you need to know about your loved one's situation so that you're not having to figure those things out in a crisis, learning what resources are out there, educating yourself about your loved one's diagnosis, and then also caring for yourself, knowing how to recognize caregiver stress, but also how to keep yourself healthy, because we know, and sometimes I think it sounds a little provocative to say, but we know that the caregiver's health is really most important in this situation. If a caregiver is not well physically, emotionally, socially, spiritually, they really can't provide the care that they want to their loved one. I have just a few more slides. I wanted to tell you a little bit about some research we did over the last 5 years with focus groups with caregivers. We actually approached employers and asked to survey their caregiving employees to learn more about what they need on their journey. And so just some things that they said that I think can really relate to, we can all relate to wherever we're at in our caregiver journey, whether we're working or not. They said that the health and long-term care system is fragmented, frustrating, and stressful to navigate. We know that. This is the field that I work in, but I can imagine if you're not familiar with all of the different terms and the different resources and how to pay for things, it can be very overwhelming. Care is also very cost prohibitive. Most of the time, if you think about, I won't give you this long analogy, but for most people, care, paying for care, it's either we have the funds to pay for care or we don't qualify for financial resources to pay for care. Our resources aren't so little that we qualify for help, but we don't have enough to pay for care. And so we kind of land somewhere in the middle. And we, as caregivers, a lot of caregivers are trying to keep up with the care that their loved one needs, keep them safe, keep quality of life, but they are really needing more help. And oftentimes a crisis occurs before they can get the help that they need. So we know it can be cost prohibitive. Caring for a loved one with Alzheimer's or a type of dementia is very challenging. There's lots of things that come along with that, with safety and quality of life. Many people that are caregiving, 1 in 4, 1 in 5, or somewhere where the statistics are, feel like they have to still work. They have to have a salary to pay for care. They need health insurance, maybe for themselves and also for maybe their loved one. And they may feel comfortable talking about their caregiving needs, whether it's with their employers, but we also know that there's stigma in all settings, including church settings. Caregiving employees said, I think this is the same across the board for all caregivers. For them to feel like they can be successful, they need information, they need expert guidance, they need a navigator, they need emotional support, and they need a caregiver-friendly workplace, but also I would say a church. They need a caregiver-friendly faith community. after we did a lot of those focus groups, Age Well started a program about 5 years ago called Elder Care Coach. And so what we found again is that people would call our helpline, our main number, to get a resource, but those conversations often became long conversations, 20 to 30 minutes, and they really needed more of a navigator. They needed someone to hear their story, connect them with resources, and help educate them on a plan for going forward. And so what I want you to know is that Elder Care Coach is available in our 13 counties we serve, whether the caregiver lives in the 13 counties or the care recipient lives in the 13 counties. We also have some limited funding to provide our coaching sessions. Even if someone's outside that area, you're welcome to call and learn more about that. But you can visit our eldercarecoach.org website and learn more about signing up for a one-on-one phone consult with a master's level geriatric professional. That's a 30-minute phone call where the caregiver can talk about what's going on and get a plan for going forward. And I'm going to talk to you next quickly about how we've done this in our local community with faith-based communities. Part of Elder Care Coach also includes education. And so I'm going to mention to you a church that we've partnered with here in the Nashville area, but just a little definition. I know our first speaker already talked about kind of congregational care, but the focus of congregational care is to respond to care and support needs of the congregation and to engage in the ongoing spiritual, physical, emotional, and relational expression of living faithfully within the body of Christ. And so as Bevel spoke about, I think congregational care can either happen with church staff leading the way and or lay church members. Elder caregivers might be looking for, just so you can think about this, the needs in your church for those providing elder care. They might be looking for emotional support, resources, as well as connection with education. My local church here in the Mount Juliet area in Nashville, that's Wilson County Providence Church. We recently completed, just to give you an idea what that looks like with them partnering with a group like Age Well, we provided a 4-part series of education on what we titled Navigating Elder Care. And so we focused on 4 topics: key issues and helpful resources, Alzheimer's and dementia, caring for the caregiver, and legal and financial issues. And for that last presentation, we brought in a subject matter expert because I am not that in the legal and financial world. And so we brought someone in to do that. But Providence Church, so let me say this, Elder Care Coach, the phone consultations that we do, we currently have limited funding through our local area agency on aging and disability to offer the phone consultations, but we are partnering with employers and faith-based communities to bring on Elder Care Coach as a benefit to employers and church members for a year-long cycle. And so Providence Church partnered with us. They funded the education and then an allotment of phone consultations for their church members. And then the education that they provided with our partnership helped gain interest for a support group. So they were using that education series to kind of start then a support group that starts later this month. So a couple things you might want to think about as you're connecting caregivers in your community. First, like Bevel said, you might want to survey those people. I think first, though, you want to make sure that you've reduced any stigma that might be in the church setting about what caregivers are going through, what their needs are. So you may just want to start a discussion. Next, you might do a needs assessment or a focus group to figure out what church members are needing. And faith communities, we know, are a great source of education and resource connection, as well as emotional support through support groups. My last few slides are just a summary of some important resources in the community that I think everyone should know about. If you don't, I'm sure you'll get these slides after today's presentation, but every part of our state has a local area agency on aging and disability. This is a great place to start if you're wondering as a caregiver and there's a financial need, if your loved one qualifies for any support in the home, if there's any caregiver support. It's just a great kind of one-stop shop. We know the Alzheimer's Association and Alzheimer's Tennessee are great resources for learning about Alzheimer's disease and dementia, as well as gaining support. Mental Health America of the Mid-South. I know is here in Nashville, but I assume they serve several other areas across the state. And they're a great resource for just mental health care needs, connecting with a therapist in your area. The Tennessee Respite Coalition, which I believe just changed their name to the Tennessee Caregiver Coalition, but they're a great resource for connecting with funds to help fund respite for caregivers. Respite just means a time of rest. So if a caregiver has a financial need, they can connect with the Tennessee Caregiver Coalition, I hope that's right, to connect with getting funds to pay for care so that they can get a break. The Tennessee SHIP phone number is on your screen. That's the State Health Insurance Assistance Program. If you have Medicare questions, as well as I think they can answer some Medicaid questions, that's a great unbiased resource. And then if you have not filled out important documents for your loved one with advance directives, you can visit advanceddirectivestn.org. If you're looking for an elder law attorney, there's a website right there, the National Association for Elder Law Attorneys. Geriatric care managers, these are great people to walk alongside you in your journey. If you're a long distance caregiver or you're just needing more support, it is a private paid service, but it can be a great resource. Senior move managers as well. If you're trying to downsize your loved one's home or do an estate sale or just get them moved from their home to an assisted living, they can do some great things, especially for people with dementia, by replicating their living room at home to maybe their living room now in their assisted living. AgeWell's phone number is right there. I'm going to give you my email as well. And there's our eldercarecoach.org website. Again, a great place to visit if you're a caregiver, if you're wanting to maybe, if you're wanting some help starting some programming in your church to support family caregivers, or if you're an employer and you're wanting to know how to do that better. I think it's important, just based on the mission at AgeWell, to always mention 10 ways to love your brain, because aging well is something that we're all trying to do. This little flyer over on the left-hand side is just, it's part of the Alzheimer's Association's website. You can visit alz.org and find out more, but those are just 10 ways to love your brain. I think it's important to always remember that we all can keep doing things to not only love our bodies, but also our brains. And then lastly, again, just a summary of the resources at AgeWell. And I'm happy to just leave it for a second. My email right there at the bottom of the screen, our phone number. Again, as I mentioned, and as Christy mentioned, we are located in Nashville. We do serve 13 counties, but many of the resources that I talked about today are going to be available wherever you're at. They're on our website. And if you're interested in learning more about Elder Care Coach and not sure if that would work where you're at, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to chat with you more about that. So thank you so much for having me today. I hope it was helpful.
Tiffany, thanks so much. I know you'll watch the chat too if there are any questions that come through there. Stephanie will send not only the slides, but also all of Tiffany's contact information and the resource links for all the resources that she mentioned as well. Steph is going to finish up with a very short presentation on Older Americans Month, which is coming up in May. Stephanie is our project manager here at Engaging Communities at UTC School of Nursing. She has a master's in education and is also pursuing her master's in public health degree. So she's been doing a lot of work around intergenerational activities and congregational care. So she's just going to give a couple hints and tips and ideas for how you can promote Older Americans Month within your congregation.
Intergenerational engagement, the benefits you've probably already heard. Just in general, benefits of engagement are the social connection, being able to share that knowledge from both an older and younger perspective, and then that leads into a diverse perspective. It also allows for mentorship, and then of course community building. So common ideas to promote this intergenerational engagement in the church or in your religious organization. You've heard some of these ideas already, and they probably don't come as a surprise to you. Choir and music groups, small groups, service projects, sharing meals together, and specifically for the church, some VBS opportunities. Some special projects that I wanted to share with you to promote an intergenerational engagement, and also to be able to focus, as Bevelle mentioned, it is a huge need for these homebound ministries to still be involved. So some of the next examples that I'll give are ways that engaging communities would like to help facilitate with your church if it's something that you're interested in. So Flat Stanley, I don't know if anyone knows who Flat Stanley is, but a cartoon character from years ago who was, as the story goes, smashed by a bulletin board, which then led to some benefits for Flat Stanley. He got to have lots of different experiences by traveling by mail to people's homes. They would take pictures to document with it. For example, my Flat Stanley went to the Summer Olympics when it was in Atlanta. So then when I got him back, I was able to tell my class that. We don't have to use Flat Stanley. It's just the premise of this idea. So if interested, this is the engaging community setup that we have that we would be happy to share with anyone in your church. It would require someone in the church to help facilitate and be kind of like the drop-off point so that Flat Stanley can make it back and forth between the older and younger member to share those different experiences. It doesn't have to be a piece of paper. We're happy to try to help to facilitate different items. In my family, we use this little guy named Socks. So if you ever go anywhere alone, you're not really alone because Socks goes with you and documents your trips. So these are just ways. It also helps build, when we're sharing Flat Stanley's experiences, it's typically in writing, whether it be a virtual, take a picture and caption it, or the old-fashioned handwritten note, which is my preferred and favorite way of communication. And so this helps build those skills for younger children too, especially when it comes to writing and being able to share those experiences and put pen to paper. And then I don't know about you all, it's more of a pen pal type opportunity. But there's nothing like having the old-fashioned letter, seeing someone's handwritten communication with you. Another option is do a packing party. So packing a go bag for disaster preparedness. This can either be done on an individual type level. We have items listed that would be great for you all to have in these go bags, or it can be done in a church setting where you maybe have different tables of the items that would be needed for these go bags. And an older and younger adult can walk around and collect these items and also try to explain the importance of why would you need a flashlight? Well, if it's an emergency type situation and there is no power, so there's education again on both ends, and now you are also have a go bag packed in case you were to ever be in an emergency situation. And the last one would be a grand friend game night. So the idea for this is to do a pairing party type mentorship. This one's a little bit more involved and would take some extra time, but be a mentor, be a grand friend. So these were some of the ideas that we have on engaging communities on how to best continue that connection, but also intergenerationally. And then the benefits, of course, from that can be endless with those connections that you all make. Here's my contact information if needed. Sorry, I talked fast. I got through it quickly, but I am here to help and would love if there's anyone who's interested in these programs to get them started at your congregation.